Welcome to Flourish. I'm Ashley Brogan, and I'm here with my ever-present co-host, Ashley Schrock. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me again.
Thank you for being here. We're so excited to dig into Genesis more because we're still in Genesis. Wow. Well, how many weeks in the year are we? Three weeks. 3.5 weeks.
Oh.
3.5 weeks. And we're still in Genesis and still just going along here.
We're going along.
And we're in Mark and we're in Proverbs.
All right.
And Psalms. I always forget
the Psalms.
And the Psalms.
Wesley calls it palms.
Palms. That's so cute. Okay. We are in Genesis we did just talk about a story that we didn't talk about last week that is in last week's reading.
Yes.
It's the very last chapter of Genesis that we read last week.
Yeah.
Genesis, what did you say it
34.
was? 34. What would you like to say about it?
Okay. I have a lot to say about it.
Okay.
I just felt like watching a TV show.
Yeah.
Anyways, there's Shechem, who's a part of a different tribe, and he violates Dinah, who is Jacob's daughter.
Yes.
Right? And then he decides, after he essentially rapes her, now I want to marry her. And it's thought that he wants to marry her, not because he's in love, but because he is terrified of what Jacob's clan is going to do.
Yeah.
Because during that time, it was actually common practice to rape women. It was just, that's what they did. Clans would rape women. It was just women were property. But
we're starting on a real heavy note here.
We're starting off. But it's thought that Shechem's clan, Hamor, thought about Judah and how his tribe lives differently than all the other tribes. Yeah. And they went, this tribe actually treats their women well. They're probably not going to like what just happened.
Yeah, and they didn't.
They didn't. So Shechem tells his daddy, I need to marry this girl, Dinah.
Yeah.
And he's like, go get Dinah for me. Anyways, they keep Dinah in their tribe, and Hamor goes to Judah with Shechem, and they're like, hey, we want to marry off your daughter Dinah to my son Shechem.
Yeah.
And Judah's Jacob. I keep calling him Judah.
It's okay. I understand.
Whatever. Jacob. Jacob's sons, which ones were they?
Simeon
and Levi. Simeon and Levi. Mm-hmm. They're actually ones that are making a deal. And in their minds, they're going, okay, they've already got my sister, Dinah. They're holding her kind of captive over at this tribe.
Yeah.
They're thinking, we have to get her back. And so they go, you raped my sister and we don't like that.
Yeah.
So they say, hey, wait a minute. We're happy to marry off Dinah to you and some of our women. We'd like to marry some of your women, but we can't do that because you're not circumcised. And they go, oh, okay. Well, they make a deal, and the brothers concoct this deal where they say, your whole tribe has to be circumcised in order for us to give you Dinah. And they think, okay, we could do that. That's fine. Because I think deep down this tribe is going, they're going to obliterate us if we don't do what they want us to do. So Hamor goes back to his tribe. He sells it to him. Hey, guys, we all got to get circumcised. But don't worry, we're going to get women out of this deal, right? They're thinking we're going to make peace, but he has to sell it.
Yeah.
And so the whole tribe gets circumcised.
Yeah.
Day 3, the brothers go, we're going to go kill them all.
And then they kill them all.
They kill them all while they're already down. Rescue Dinah from the hands of this tribe. Come back. And Jacob goes, what have you done? What have you done, boys?
You've made a mockery of me.
You have made a mockery of me. But
what do we think the reason is they include this in Scripture?
I don't know. It's pretty deceitful. It's not a fair fight.
No.
It does show one thing to me, that this tribe does treat women different.
Yeah.
We were talking about that last week.
Yeah.
They're much different than the tribes around them.
Yeah.
And it's just to me, it's another level of deceit.
Yeah.
These are brothers of Leah. So Simeon and Levi are brothers.
Yeah.
From Leah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a funny story to me, removed from it, but probably wasn't funny to the freshly circumcised.
Do you think it's interesting that Jacob, whose name is Deceiver, would have sons that have some of that element?
Yeah. But still be blessed. I think that's what messes with my brain.
Yeah.
Lord's like, fine, you're figuring it out.
Yeah. But I've changed your name.
But I've changed your name. Anyways, this story really stood out to me. I'm sad we didn't get to it last week.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's not funny, but it was clever. We'll give him clever and creative. I missed it
last week. I read the scriptures.
Yeah.
And you're telling me and I'm going, wait, what happened? It's amazing how quickly our brains can move on. You know?
Anyways, it's also all over a woman. Like who most clans treated like property.
Yeah.
Their brothers were like, oh, heck no.
Not our sister.
Not our sister.
Yeah.
Which shows that this was a tribe that was leaning towards morality and character.
It's interesting, though, they would go through these lengths to protect their sister.
Yes.
But they're also willing to sell their brother on the next page.
Coming right up.
It's just,
it is fascinating.
Fascinating.
This isn't okay, but you know what? I'm okay if it's me.
Because this was I was doing it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It was my decision.
It's like, oh no, you can't. It's kind of like, you know, you can't be mean to my brother.
100%.
But I can be, I can
talk
be mean.
smack about my brother.
Yeah.
You can't.
But you can't talk smack. 100%.
Obviously, we don't talk smack about Josh.
No, or your brothers.
Just kidding.
No. Anyway, so we go into Genesis 35.
Okay.
Jacob returns to Bethel. Now, I feel like they're given a land the Lord promises them, but they all still live like nomads, it feels like they're wandering a lot. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's something they do because, the cows have grazed on this grass long enough and you have to move to a fresh pasture or something. That makes sense. Maybe. I don't know.
It's like the Oregon Trail.
Yes, 100% in real life, which the Oregon Trail was also real life.
It was very real life. I was just playing it last week. It's available, guys.
Is it really?
Yes,
is it
fun? On for your phone. It gets
free?
kind of redundant. No, I think it's free.
Not that I'm downloading it right now.
If it did cost $2, I probably would have paid $2. $10 would have been too much for me. But it is available to you. That's just a side note.
Is it this one? Oregon Trail?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh my God.
It's pretty good.
Exciting. Anyways, so he returns to Bethel, and before he goes, he says, get rid of your pagan idols, purify yourselves, put on clean clothing. So they're going to church. Putting on their Sunday best. Everything at the door, put on your Sunday's best. We're going to Bethel, where I will build an altar to the God who answered my prayers when I was in distress. He's been with me wherever I have gone. And then he goes, and God changes his name to Israel, but he already did this.
That's a great point.
This is the second time God changes his name.
Is it the same place?
Somewhere that was like the Lord. I don't fully understand why did the Lord do it twice.
That's a great
But I read
question.
somewhere that said this is like the Lord saying like, okay, you need to get your act together. Because if they had pagan idols,
right. Which were those the ones that were stolen? Remember when?
Well, I wondered that too.
Rebecca
if those
sat
are
on
the
them?
ones that Rachel stole.
Rachel. Gosh darn it.
Yeah.
These women, I can't keep.
What did you say? Bilhah?
No.
Zilpah?
No,
Rebecca?
Rebecca. We need to make this wall pictures.
Just pictures of who they are.
Yeah. So I can go, this girl. We'll just grab pictures.
But
that's a great
why
question.
was God changing his name a second time? The Lord, because I sat there and I went, didn't he call him Israel when he wrestled with God? Was that when it was that he broke his hip and called him Israel and blessed him?
Was this in the same place? Did he wrestle with him in Bethel?
Well, Bethel is where he had the dream. I don't remember if he might have. I think when he wrestled with God was somewhere between Bethel and somewhere else.
It was on his way too. Okay.
So then he comes back to Bethel, and then the Lord says this to him. So I don't fully understand the context. I would have to dig in deeper.
That's a great
point.
Because
I think when I first read it, I'm not understanding the why.
Yeah.
Just, he's doing that again. But when I read it somewhere, they were saying, this is like the Lord saying, like, because it said, yes, God named Jacob twice in the Bible. He renamed him. In Genesis 32:28, God renamed Jacob to Israel after Jacob wrestled with an angel and prevailed. Okay. And in Genesis 35, God reaffirmed the name change and gave him the same covenant as Abraham.
Interesting.
So he was given the promise of the descendants and things like that. So, and this says that it was a reminder for Jacob to change his ways.
I could see that.
Because it said even after God had told him that he would be called Israel and Jacob had a name change, his heart had not changed.
It's also noted here that this is the only time that God tells a patriarch to build an altar. I read that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Meaning he didn't out of his own free will build the altar.
Yeah, he said go back and build
I think
an
he's
altar.
the only one that God ever tells. It was a note in one of my books that I went, it's like it wasn't his natural instinct to build an altar like everybody else.
Well, the Lord's just trying to keep Jacob here on track, which he struggled with it. Anyways, this is fascinating. Time passes, and we are now here in chapter 37 with Joseph, 17-year-old Joseph.
Okay.
Who is a dreamer, as we know. He has dreams. He tells his families. And I just think this is a thing about him that even in his young age, he was having dreams.
Yeah.
He had to somehow steward and learn to interpret dreams because later dreams become a big thing again.
Right.
Where he's not the one dreaming them.
He's interpreting.
But he's interpreting them.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's something here about our dreams when we have dreams that we need to learn to steward our dreams like you and I have talked about because for those who nobody will know this but you and I are both dreamers.
Yes.
Your dreams are I feel like a lot more plain literal.
I thought you were going to say they're plain and boring.
No.
They're very basic.
Your dreams, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying your dreams I feel like are very like when you tell me your dreams, I kind of go, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What am I trying to say? Like they're easy to interpret in my brain because I go, they're literal in the sense of you say something really profound in your dream. Somebody says something to you very profound. Yeah. And then I have dreams that are just like.
Yours are like a movie, like eyeballs floating. Animals talking. I'm just kidding. Not animals. But you're like, wow, this could be a film.
Yes. But yours, I go, wow, yours are profound. Like your dreams are very profound. And I feel like it does take some interpretation, obviously. And you don't always know when it applies.
Right.
But I feel like it goes, oh my gosh, you said that really profound thing. Like you could just sit on that for a while.
Right.
And then I have dreams where I go, I don't.
Yours are more symbolic, where they're very symbolic. Big picture, symbolic, where you have to know beginning to end.
Where I think I don't ever know what it actually means, but it means something.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Book of the Prophets, where you're like, I don't really know what that means, but we'll write it down.
Yeah. But I do think it's a key way the Lord speaks to both of us.
Yeah.
And so we've talked a lot about stewarding our dreams, like we need to write them down. And so I just am noting here, since that's something that I feel like the Lord speaks to me through a lot. Yeah. I'm going to pay attention to the dreamer.
Yes.
And how he obviously stewarded something because he was able to interpret his dreams.
Yes.
Everybody else was able to interpret them too. Like, what you think we're going to bow down to you?
11 brothers. Stars.
Yeah. Like, you think we're going to bow down to you? That's really funny.
Interesting.
Like, I don't know. But so it just does it make you kind of think about it too? Because like later the Lord uses these dreams to promote him and get him out of difficult situations.
Right. Is this the first dreamer in the Bible?
No, Daniel.
Well, does Daniel come? We need a timeline.
They all have visions.
But it's the first we're reading about this year.
Oh no, Daniel's later. Sorry.
Yeah, Daniel's later.
What am I thinking?
It's because we're
it's because we just read Daniel that I'm like,
it was
I'm
last month.
Daniel's later.
Yeah.
So Joseph, this must be the first one that's like a predominant dreamer. So he has two dreams, but so here's the deal: is he would go and he would work alongside his half brothers, is what Scripture said, and it notes specifically Bilhah and Zilpah's boys.
Yes,
it doesn't say Rachel, and which Rachel was, obviously Joseph, but Bilhah and Zilpah's, and then he would tattle on them
all the time. He was a big tattletale.
How do we find the boundary between? Like you see something unjust and you want to report it, but also you don't want to be
daddy's favorite little boy with a rainbow coat,
tattletale,
right?
Do you know what I mean? Like, where's the balance here? Because Joseph kind of did it to himself. We talked about it last year how they did like not like a Prince of Egypt version for Joseph.
Yes.
And he's like running on the mountains and wearing his colorful coat. And he's saying, I am what is it he says? He says something
I'm a special boy. I'm just kidding.
He says, I'm special. I'm whatever. And he's like the chosen one or whatever.
I always picture his coat a little glimmery too. Rainbow, glimmery, glitter. Like he stands out above.
And Jane are like, no wonder his brothers were annoyed with him.
And I mentioned this to you yesterday where I said, how many times have we read this darn story? And this is the time it's finally hitting me that this is Rachel's son, who was Jacob's favorite wife.
Yeah, so obviously he would be the favorite.
He would be the favorite, obviously. But
And he's
to
the
me,
youngest.
it stood out.
He's the youngest.
There was
Benjamin. Benjamin after that.
Which is interesting when she has Benjamin and dies because of him. There's a thought that when she names him Ben-Ani, which means son of my suffering, or essentially that his name means I killed my mom.
Yeah.
That's why Jacob changes it to Benjamin.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I don't want this to be a reminder.
Yeah.
That was just a side
I think
note.
that's amazing too.
But you can tell he prefers Joseph still.
He does.
Because what if he has like a little bit of animosity towards Benjamin
for killing his
mom, essentially.
Yeah,
but
totally.
Anyways,
so Reuben, so he basically has these dreams where his brothers are bowing down to him, and his dad even kind of goes, "You think I'm bowing down to you?" Like, so Joseph has a little bit of a. It's kind of hard though because he's having these dreams. He's not forcing himself to have these dreams. He's having these dreams, and in his naivety, he's going.
Naivete.
Yeah, it is naiveness. Naivete. Now I don't know what the word is. But in being naive,
yes,
he is just like, I'm telling you my dream.
Isn't it cool?
Isn't it so cool? Wow. All you guys were working for me. Whoa.
Could you believe it?
Could you imagine as a sibling? I'd probably be like, that's so funny.
Wait, how soon can we dig the pit? Just kidding.
So he goes to.
Oh, his dad keeps it in mind, though. The Bible says
he keeps it in mind.
He goes, Joseph, but he keeps it in mind.
But he knows that Joseph is special.
He's special.
See, the Lord likes to use people that have a little bit of rough edges. So shout out to all the rough edged people out there. The Lord can still use you in a powerful way, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so he goes to, I guess, spy on his brothers, and they plot to kill him. They throw him in a pit. There is the one brother,
Reuben.
who's like, we can't kill him.
He's the oldest.
Yeah, he's the one speaking reason, but he's still outnumbered by, 9 other brothers or whatever it is. And here's the thing. He comes back when Joseph is sold to Ishmaelites, which that I just noted that he was sold into other family, Was it not?
No, it was.
Oh,
I have a thought about it, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's actually, they're not sure that the brothers sold him. Because in the Bible, it says the Midianites sell him to the Ishmaelites, and the Midianites pull him out of the pit.
Oh.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, but they didn't stop it.
They didn't stop it. Which is just funny, because we're like, they could have.
Yeah. But Reuben comes back, and he's like, oh my gosh, what have you done?
Yeah.
My brother. But Reuben, like, even in this righteousness of caring that his brother was sold, didn't ever tell Jacob.
No, he doesn't go home and be like, uh-oh, we're making a big mistake.
Or we should go after him.
Right.
But he still mourns it, so he's feeling some guilt. I just wondered what that dynamic was like after Joseph left.
Did Reuben also, was he the only one thinking about it because he's the eldest and he knows he'll likely be the one that's held responsible, like
Probably.
you let this happen?
Yeah, because he's the oldest one.
So he's still kind of like personally thinking
what
about
was their
it.
dynamic? Because Joseph was gone for a while, years.
Yeah.
What was their dynamic like back at home? Did they have a mourning period for Joseph?
Right.
What was their dynamic like in their family? Because shame and guilt can kind of rear its ugly head in your life.
Right.
And sorry, I'm having like congestion, but we're good. So Joseph is sold, and he's given to Potiphar, and he is there.
Yes.
And it says specifically the Lord was with Joseph, so he succeeded in everything he did. And he served in the home as the Egyptian master. So the Lord was with him, and he succeeded. Is that a precedent for our life? The Lord is with us. We should succeed.
Yeah.
So then he's working there. He gets promoted. He's in charge of all the things. And then we have Potiphar's wife, because they say that Joseph was an attractive guy.
Yes.
That's what scripture says. And so Potiphar's wife, like, I want him. And Joseph has enough integrity, even in the hurt of being sold into slavery by his brothers, rejected by his family, having to be a slave. He somehow still has that moral compass of wanting to please the Lord.
Right.
And it's because the Lord made him prosperous, he saw this, and he wanted to flee from sin. And I think we learned something here about Joseph was very intentional to not be put in a position where he was alone with Potiphar's wife.
Right.
And it says that he avoided her or whatever.
Yeah.
But then one day he was there and she came into the house.
Yes.
So I think he was trying very intentionally, like,
stay away from
I'm not
this.
even putting myself in a position
Yeah.
where I could be compromised. But she kind of forced it.
Right.
And then he runs away from her.
Yeah.
He flees from sin. He doesn't even give in to the temptation. It doesn't even say that he was tempted.
Right.
He just says, you're my master's wife.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this. And then he runs. And I just think, wow.
Right.
We're seeing a man that has complete integrity.
Right.
And the ability and the importance of running away from sin.
Right.
You know?
Isn't it interesting that his garment is what gets him in trouble too? It's his robe.
Yeah.
I thought that was like,
oh yeah.
It was just
'Cause he was
interesting.
given the coat that got him in trouble before.
Yeah. Yeah. That somehow it's like the garment again.
Yeah.
Is
like
the thing,
something
is
about
the tell.
it.
Yeah.
Totally. So he's sent to prison.
Which
and
is
then-
interesting because if a slave is caught sleeping with your wife,
Yeah.
they likely would be executed.
Yeah.
So obviously it also shows us that there was this dynamic between Potiphar and Joseph.
Yeah.
That they were very familiar with one another. And
Yeah.
I think Potiphar was probably like, I wonder if there was anything about Potiphar that went, maybe Joseph didn't really do this.
Yeah.
Like maybe his wife is one of those like nagging wives,
Yeah.
you know, that are like
No.
always a problem. And
Yeah.
so he's thinking, he should, but he made, to me, it shows a relationship between those two.
Yes, it does. And he, I also think, what was I going to say? He's sent to prison. Something along the lines of how even in his integrity and doing things right, sometimes things happen in life.
Totally.
Right? Because he got sent to prison and you go, well, he didn't do anything wrong. The Lord blessed him. He succeeded in everything he did. Then why did he get sent to prison?
Right.
But sometimes I think in this life, we think following the Lord means we need to be exempt from things, but we still will walk through hardships.
Yes. And there's a great book that I read at Morningstar, God Meant It for Good by R.T. Kendall. Did you read this?
No, I didn't.
Wow. Anybody, if that speaks to you, the story of R.T. Kendall you'll weep your whole way through it. He talks about the story of Joseph, but he talks about things that happen to people, even if they have moral and character, but that God will use it for good.
Oh, that's really good.
It's a really good book.
You should look that up. We'll share it in the group so you can see. So he goes to prison and it says like right away, but the Lord was with Joseph in the prison and showed him his faithful love. So the Lord is like, and the Lord made Joseph a favorite. Joseph has a trend of being the favored one.
Favor. He has a lot of favor.
With his dad. Not with his brothers, but favor with his dad, favor with Potiphar, favor with the prison warden, favor with Pharaoh. So there's something about him.
Yeah.
Obviously it's the Lord.
Yeah.
But that highlights him as a favored one.
Right.
I don't know.
It's interesting. And it's not just favor in his dad's house. He's also having favor in other people's house.
Yeah.
Which is it's fascinating to me. This is also a story of someone having favor in the world. If we're going to use that language, where it's like he's having favor in a king's, like this guy who has a lot of influence.
Yeah.
That's interesting to me too.
Yeah. He's favored. I just want to know, I kind of would love to meet Joseph.
Yeah.
Like, what was his personality like?
Was he like the
what
personality
was his time
hire?
like in prison though? Like, was he? What did he do to steward the dreams in prison? Did he always dream? How did he learn he could interpret dreams?
Sure. At what point?
Yeah. What was the point? I just think it's. I don't know. I guess we will never know.
We'll never know until heaven.
Until heaven. I'll add it to my list of questions. That at this point is like a mile long. So he gets the dreams, get him promoted into Pharaoh's kingdom. Do you have anything to say up until this point? Because I'm kind of just breezing past these.
No.
Then his brothers show up and he does this whole charade with them where he kind of tormenting them a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, which is kind of what his brothers did with Shechem.
It is.
Like a little bit of a, like, okay, you guys are here and I'm going to trick you by putting the money back in your bags. I'm going to keep a brother here. Like, it's just very like, I don't understand the whole reason why Joseph did all that he did. If it was the Lord directing him or I don't know. But I just wondered when his brothers went back to Jacob.
Okay.
Okay. What was that conversation like? when they told him, hey, Joseph is alive, did they at any point say, this was us all along? Did they at any point say, Dad, we have a confession?
Okay, so we're at the point where they are.
Sorry, I'm skipping through.
No, that's okay.
In 41. Well, 40, whatever. Anyways, but he when they went back and they said, once Joseph revealed himself, they went back and got his father. Did they say,
wow.
Wow.
You okay?
It just started playing. No.
That's really weird.
I literally
What song is that?
It's Never Leave by Maverick City. That was weird.
Did they say, I'm a testimony?
That's so funny. I don't know how that happened. Anyways, but did they, when they went back to their dad, did they say, this is what we did? Did they just go, oh my gosh, miracle of miracles?
Yeah.
Joseph's alive somehow.
How did that happen?
Or did they say, this is what what was that conversation like?
I don't know.
After years and years and years.
Yeah.
Or did Jacob already know at this point, did they confess at some point? We did this.
I don't know, because his dad seems pretty surprised.
Yeah. So then was his joy and happiness for Joseph being alive overshadowing any sin that was committed?
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just kind of was like, I'll put myself in that situation. What was that dynamic like?
Right.
So anyways, then they all live happily ever after in Goshen.
Yes.
For a little while until Joseph dies.
Yeah.
And then a new Pharaoh takes place. Do you have anything you'd like to say in between these times?
Yeah, there was a lot. I think the baker in the prison, I thought that story was really interesting where he's like, remember me when you go up.
Yeah, and then he forgets.
Yeah, he interprets their dreams. He forgets. And then when Pharaoh has the dream and Joseph I think this is another glimpse of Joseph's favor in a kingdomly realm.
Yeah.
Where I think it speaks to people who are working in businesses.
Yeah.
I think this is a story for people who are having influence in different realms.
Yeah.
That I think the Lord will give you opportunity to interpret the boss.
Yeah.
To have a dream that could influence the future of a company, right?
Yeah.
These different decisions that are made.
Yeah.
I think this is a picture of Joseph being used by God with someone who doesn't follow the Lord.
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful picture that it doesn't always have to be this picture of chaos between you and someone who doesn't walk with the Lord. You can actually be a Joseph, a gift, a piece of favor in the house that directs an entire nation. Wow, it gives me the chills.
Of not Jesus followers.
Yeah, of not Jesus followers, that you could be the solution to an incredible problem. Yeah. And they go, how did you do that? And you go, that's the Lord. And I love that type of stuff.
That's beautiful.
Makes me so excited because the Lord is a great problem solver.
Yeah.
So much so that he told a nation for 7 years, you're going to have good food. You're going to have a lot of it and you're going to produce too much. You should save some of it for the next 7.
And it's almost like because of Joseph that he did that, because the Lord, the Egyptians are pagan worshipers.
Yeah.
But the Lord was giving Pharaoh insight.
Yes.
It feels like for the sake of Joseph. For the sake of Israel, because then they were able to feed Israel.
Yes.
As a byproduct of making Egypt prosperous in the midst of a famine.
Yes. And that it sometimes takes you stepping out. It's favor will get you in the door, but I think also having character in the low places. Yeah. Where Joseph maintained his character, he had favor in prison, but he also he still stewarded the gifts that the Lord gave him in the hidden times. Yeah. And I think that to me is a picture of.
And he was also given a pagan name. They gave him an Egyptian name.
Yeah.
And he dressed as an Egyptian and he talked like an Egyptian because when his brothers showed up, he wasn't speaking their language.
Right.
And I think this goes to when my dad talks about Daniel, how Daniel was given a pagan name.
Yeah.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, pagan names.
Yeah.
And they still lived in a pagan land, worked for people that were pagan, and they still maintained the integrity of who they were in the Lord.
And I think, so what I was saying was I think even if you're in a season of you feel hidden or you're with people that it's not Potiphar. You're not with Pharaoh.
Yeah.
You're not sitting with kings. You're
Yeah.
actually sitting with a baker in, I almost said in the oven, but in prison where you literally have no place of influence. I do think the Lord stewards your gifting in those places so that you can maintain your character when you're put into positions of authority to where you can boldly speak, hey, I do know the interpretation of your dream, Pharaoh. Because I think in that moment when he interpreted his dream, I think he bought credit with Pharaoh.
Yeah.
So that when it was time to have influence, Pharaoh willingly gave it to him. Yeah. I love the story of Joseph.
Yeah, Joseph is amazing.
It's really beautiful because this is a guy who was the favorite of his father and then sold into slavery, put into prison, had favor again, right? You have favor, you reach the mountaintop. This is mountain and valley, right? Yeah. But still having influence and maintaining character even in the valley. And I think that's really beautiful.
I am so excited that The Chosen is doing Joseph.
Really?
Yeah, they're doing Joseph.
Oh, that's exciting.
They're doing one, like a limited 8-episode season of Joseph, which I'm so excited about.
Oh man, that's exciting.
And they're doing Moses.
And Moses, yes, Moses. That's going to take seasons, I feel like.
I think they're doing 3 seasons of Moses.
At least.
I think it is, but I'm like, wow. Because I think it'd be great to see how Joseph plays out.
Yes. How they put his screen. Like, what's his character?
Yeah.
Or like, what's his, like.
Here's a thought I had while you were talking about it is, like, okay, we think about Abraham as the beginning of all the, the tribes and the Israel, just Jewish culture, whatever. And Jesus, we have this really important person, Joseph. And then right after, 400 years later, we have this really important person, Moses.
Yes.
Both of them are from different tribes because Joseph is obviously of the tribe of Joseph.
Yes.
Moses is from the tribe of Levi.
Okay, yeah.
I think. And then we have David, who's from the tribe of Judah.
Interesting, yeah.
Why, like, I'm sitting here going, we have Joseph. Joseph's amazing. Yeah. He has incredible character. The Lord uses him in an incredibly powerful way. Moses, the deliverer, used in an incredibly Jesus figure-like way. Why is it that Jesus then chose his line to come from David from Levi? Do you know what I mean?
Levi being born of Leah.
Yeah, and yes, that too.
Not even the favorite wife.
Not even the favorite, which is important. But like, why did I say Levi? Judah. He's from the tribe of Judah.
Judah. Okay.
Sorry. Who is Leah's son? Judah.
Who's also Leah. Yeah.
But why did he choose to come from Judah? What was it about Judah specifically that's the one the Lord chose to come from? Because he could have chosen to come from I don't know if it's because Judah the warriors.
Right.
Maybe, and he is a king and he comes from the warriors, or I don't know. Because I'm looking here and I'm going, well, Judah is involved in throwing Joseph into the pit, and Judah's, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
this is just a question because Judah sleeps with Tamar, who has the twins.
Yeah.
He's not from that line, is he?
Yeah.
That's
because they
crazy.
talk about the women that are in the line of Jesus.
Is Tamar in there? Okay, Tamar,
whatever.
Tamar
from Leah. Well, Tamar, Bathsheba.
Wild.
Is it Bathsheba? Well, he comes from Bathsheba. David, Rahab, and who's the other one? There's another one.
That's fascinating because that whole story with Tamar, where she pretends to be the prostitute. He sleeps with her, gives her a
Tamar,
staff.
Rahab, Ruth, and Bathsheba. Ruth, why did I have to yell it? Anyway, so I think, but why did he choose Judah, the tribe of Judah?
And a prostitute. Well, she wasn't really a prostitute. She pretended to be one. She deceived him.
Yeah, he chose a lot of, like, there's a lot of people in the line that's
really interesting.
But I just thought, why did he choose Judah? Why he could have made that promise to Moses after all he did. He could have said, Moses, my descendants will come from your line. But he made the promise specifically to David.
Yeah.
And specifically David came from Judah.
Wow.
And then all the prophecies are pointing, he's going to come from the line of Judah because that's what he promised David. And so I don't know.
That would be interesting to research.
Why not Joseph?
Right.
Why not from Manasseh? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. We probably don't ever know, but it's interesting to think about. Okay, so if we could just jump into Mark really quick.
Okay.
There's just this scripture.
Mark what?
Mark 8. So Jesus feeds the 4,000.
Okay.
and they get into a boat to go across the water. Because let's just remind people, he feeds the 5,000 and then he feeds the 4,000. So Jesus is feeding a lot of people. He does the same miracle twice.
Okay.
And they get into the boat and the disciples are like, after this amazing miracle,
Right.
they're bickering over food.
Right.
And like, oh, you didn't bring bread. I didn't bring bread. Why didn't you bring bread? We're going to be hungry. I'm so hungry. And I just feel for Jesus in this moment because I go, he's performing miracle after miracle. And he's got to be getting frustrated that it seems like his disciples just don't get it sometimes. But also, I bet if I was in the moment, I'm not sure I would. Like, I think it's easy when we have the whole picture to be like, I would have gotten it, you know? I don't know that we would have.
Yeah.
But he's sitting there and they're arguing, and Jesus knowing that's not a word, knowing what they were saying, said, why are you arguing that you have no bread? Don't you understand even yet? Are your hearts too hard to take it in? You have eyes, can't you see? You have ears, can't you hear? Don't you remember anything at all? When I fed the 5,000 with 5 loaves, how many baskets of leftovers did you have? And they said 12. And he goes, when I fed the 4,000 with 7 loaves, how many baskets did you have pick up? And they said 7. And he goes, don't you understand? And then that's the end of that story.
Wow.
But I like read it and it's a moment where I feel compassion for the Lord.
Yeah.
like he's here. He has limited time and he's got these followers and he has limited time to infuse these followers with all the things he needs to before he knows he's going to the Lord.
Yeah.
And he does these things and they're going, we don't even have bread. And he's like, did you not just see what I did with the bread?
Right.
Twice. Like, why are you not listening?
Right.
And I think it was just like one of those moments. Could you imagine being reprimanded by the Lord like that?
Right. They must not have fully understood he was.
Yeah. Well, not long later after they have that whole conversation about who do you think I am?
Right.
And so I don't know. I sat there and my only feeling from it was, man, I just feel for the Lord in this moment.
Did we talk about this last week where he walks in the water and it says that Jesus was going to pass by?
Yeah.
That stood out to me where he's like, I'm going to do this and I will walk right past you.
Yes.
Before like his intention wasn't to stop.
Yeah.
And it's after this incredible miracle and you go, how in the world? Right. And it's also like interesting that they complained for bread in the wilderness.
Yeah.
Like the Israelites. Where it's
they're like, and he's like, oh my gosh.
Then he talks about the leaven of Pharisees right after that. So he's still using the bread. He's like, how many stories?
Don't be like the Pharisees.
Must I say about bread for you to get this?
So then right after we have the transfiguration. So we're very close, I think it is, to when Jesus is going to die on the cross, I think. Okay. Very close. But the transfiguration happens on the mountain, and I only bring it up because Moses and Elijah show up here.
Yes, this is important.
And this is where I've asked before, how did Peter, James, and John know that it was Moses and Elijah? Did they just have a knowing? Were they wearing name tags?
Were there sketched pictures on rocks of Moses throughout the years?
I know. Like, how did they know? But they have this incredible thing, and Peter's response is to like set up a tabernacle for all of them. And in this moment, it's kind of like, you don't get it.
Yeah.
And I didn't, also that this is a fulfilling of a prophecy of them appear. Jesus is the law and the prophets. So I don't know. Then later in here, there's a boy that has an evil spirit. You and I talked about this on Sunday. With our husbands, where I read this and the only thing that stood out to me was that so Jesus cast out an evil spirit. And afterward, when Jesus was alone in his house with the disciples, they said, why couldn't we cast out that spirit? And Jesus replied, this kind can be cast out only by prayer. Some manuscripts say prayer and fasting.
Oh, okay.
Just the translation I read only said prayer, but it says prayer and fasting.
Interesting.
How do you know when you've encountered one of those spirits?
I know, right?
In the process of deliverance.
Yes.
How do you know? Or should we just always be in prayer and fasting?
Right.
And it just brought up a question about prayer, the significance of prayer. And Jesus always often went by himself to prayer. I think we're always trying to make a group of prayer, which group of prayer is not bad. Praying together is powerful. But the power in the individual prayer life between you and the Father in communion.
Right.
What authority does that give you when you're spending invested time praying alone with the Lord?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It apparently matters.
Apparently it matters to demons, so it should matter to us. And then just real quick before we go, Proverbs chapter 2. I just lost it on here. I like Proverbs chapter 2 because it talks about wisdom. And we can learn a lot from Solomon on wisdom because he asked for wisdom, which showed he had wisdom. And he lived a life with his eyes opened to wisdom. He had all the things. And so I listen to what he says because he knows things.
Sure.
But it says, turn your ears to wisdom and concentrate on understanding. So I pay attention to wisdom because scripture says that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Yeah. Wisdom, having wisdom, you fear the Lord. It's like this cyclical thing. Mm-hmm. And so I want to pay attention to it because I want my life to be marked by the fear of the Lord. And so it says, cry out of insight and ask for understanding. Search for them as you would for silver. So search for wisdom and understanding as you would for silver. Seek them like hidden treasures. Mm-hmm. Then you will understand what it means to fear the Lord, and you will gain knowledge.
Interesting.
So searching for wisdom and understanding, whatever this means. For the Lord grants wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. So we need the word. I think this is really key right here, that wisdom and understanding come from the word, because the Lord kind of grants these things and he holds them.
Yeah.
So we have to search out what's our connection to the Lord. Well, prayer and the word, I think. Then we'll understand what's right and we'll find the right way to go. For wisdom will enter your heart and knowledge will fill you with joy. Wise choices will watch over you. Understanding will keep you safe.
Wow.
So like wisdom and understanding are key for fear of the Lord. Huh. And it tells you what wisdom watches over you and understanding keeps you safe.
Wow.
Yep. And then wisdom will save you from evil people, from those whose words are twisted. Made me think of listening to this Benny Hinn sermon that I've been listening to for days because it's like 10 hours long. Not really, but close. And him talking about how important the word is. And I sit here and I go, wisdom, it's the, what is it? It's the glory of kings to conceal a matter, and the glory of God to conceal a matter. It's the honor of kings to search it out. Mm-hmm. And there's this something here about wisdom and understanding that's connected to the fear of the Lord. Anyways, that's all I have to say for that. Did you have anything else you'd like to add today?
No, this was good.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining with us. We will talk more about Genesis next week, and we hope you have a great week reading the Word. Bye.
Bye.